Hey there, guys, and welcome to this week's Reboot Row live stream and podcast. This week, we're going to talk a little bit what's going on here at the Row, and then I think we're going to get a little into the spooky season again and talk a little bit about Halloween. Brooke keeps telling me that she knows the story of Halloween, and I think I'm going to make her prove it to me today. So first and foremost, we're going to talk a little bit about what's going on here. Of course, we do currently have our celluloid exhibit going on. It's really interesting pieces. A lot of them are buildings from downtown and companies that have been around for years. And so we have a little bit about what celluloid was, where it came from. Brooke, maybe you want to talk a little bit about what that exhibit's about?
Yeah, celluloid is one of the earliest forms of plastic. And in fact, a lot of film, 35 millimeter film that we have used in modern times is actually celluloid. But in an early part of history, celluloid was used for advertisements, keepsakes that you would get from local businesses. So our exhibit really does have a lot of pens, pocket mirrors, anything that a local business would hand out, like our modern day calendar that we would put on the fridge.
That's great. Thanks so much, Brooke. And speaking of keepsakes, I think this week we got in some special keepsakes here at the Row. We actually got some brand new magnets. We talked about them a couple weeks ago with you guys, but we do have them now available for purchase. They're really great looking magnets. They're Joseph sitting in front of the Row, the building he built. So if you're looking for something interesting for your fridge that's going to kind of bring you into the holiday spirit, definitely come get one of those from us here. They're going to be $5 a piece, so you can't beat that price when you're supporting the Row. Speaking about supporting the Row, we recently did get our giving system put up online. So if you're a member of the Row and you don't want to have to send a check into the museum here, you can actually do your membership online. If you want to become a member of the Row and start getting our amazing newsletter and invitations to some of our great events, you can also sign up online. And along with that, if you just want to help us out here, keep us going, help us get through, this crazy year, we do have a great giving system on there where you can give a donation of any amount just to help the Row keep going. If you go to the rebootrowmuseum.org, right there at the top, there's a get involved and there's a donate section. You can definitely hit those up and they'll help you out with moving to the system. It's a really simple system to make the payment, and it will really help the Row out, keeping our doors open and letting us create these great videos for you guys. Along with that new video, speaking of online stuff, we actually recently worked with KQ2, and then very soon we'll be having a number of videos going up on both KQ2's website as well as on television. You'll see some showcases showing about what the museum is about, a little bit about some of our more interesting exhibits that we've done this year. So definitely check those out. And if you have a chance, head by KQ2's website and check out some of the stuff we have on there. So now we're going to get into a little bit more of our meat of our podcast this week. So Brooke, you keep telling me that you had some crazy weekend last weekend where you did something fun. So tell me about that.
That's right. I went to a Halloween party last weekend. We're talking costumes, bonfire, pumpkin carving. So it really was cider punch, a real authentic type of Halloween costume party. And I went as Cruella de Vil, which we will get up on the screen for you so you can see that. So it was just such a wonderful time, and it made me wonder about the history of Halloween. Why do we do these things? Why are these traditions? You recently had an interesting weekend with your kids related to Halloween, isn't that right?
Yeah, I did. The kids and I were going, well, the kid's wife and I were going shopping for costumes, and like you were talking about, it kind of got me thinking, being the historians we are, of course, our first thought is not, oh, these costumes are nice. Our first thought, of course, is what was it? Why did Halloween happen? Where did it come from? So when I got into work the next week, I was telling Brooke about it and talking about how my son, which I'll put a picture of him, decided to dress up as Master Chief which is funny because he's never even played the Halo games, but he's convinced he has to be Master Chief. And I mentioned that to you, and you were telling me how you know the story of Halloween, that you have all the history of it, which, we'll see. I mean, I'm supposed to be the one that's supposed to know all the history. So, Brooke, tell me a little bit about where did Halloween come from?
It's quite an interesting weaving tale. The Celtic culture, when it spread across Europe, uh, actually had a New Year's, which was October the 31st. It was a celebration where the harvest ended. Summer had come and gone, and the veil between the dead and the living was very close together. So what would happen, bonfires would rage through the night to ward off dead spirits that were coming down upon the land. It's not the only agricultural society that does have a dedication to the dead.
So you're talking about the Sanwi celebration, I think, if that sounds right. That's kind of their harvest festival, Day of the Dead kind of mixed thing, isn't it?
Yes, that's right. And what ended up happening was, as the Catholic faith started gaining more control over Europe, they didn't see kindly on the pagan practices. And so they got their foothold in it and decided to create a holiday, which was originally November the 1st, but eventually changed. So let's not get too ahead of ourselves. They decided to have a holiday ritual that was dedicated to martyrs, people of their faith that had, passed away. So it was basically honoring the dead.
So they obviously didn't call it Sanwi. So is there something involved with that where we get the name Halloween from? Because I know what All Saints Day is, and a lot of people know what All Saints Day is. So I'm assuming it's connected to that, but where does the Halloween name come from?
It was actually called Hollow Moss, hollow meaning holy or saint, which is not that far off with Halloween as we call it today. So it's the day of celebrating the saints. So it's really evolved out of the same word. We're celebrating the saints.
All right, I get that 100%. That makes total sense. So obviously we're talking, this is ancient, not ancient necessarily, but we're talking post-Roman, medieval ages stuff. So how did we get it in the United States? I mean, see, obviously people came from those areas, but why do we celebrate Halloween in the United States the same way? I mean, obviously it's similar to what they used to do. So why do we celebrate it here?
That's a really good question. How did it get to America? When the potato famine happened, there was a lot of Irish settlers that moved to America, and they actually brought the tradition over with them. And so that's how that kind of came to be in this area.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So a lot of the aspects that we see now, like you talked about the bonfires, the shared community aspects were all part of that. So how did we lose the ghost side of it? Nowadays we don't necessarily sit there and say, oh, we're having a bonfire because we're scaring off ghosts. So how did that part disappear?
There was a lot of, as towns developed, there was a lot of hooligans. It was a situation where All Hallows Eve turned out to be a series of misadventures where kids would go out and basically destroy property. First it started with pranks. You would take off the door hinges of someone's gate perhaps, and it turned out to be an evolving, a dangerous thing. So in order to ward off damage to your property, homeowners were basically blackmailed into giving out treats and candies so their property wouldn't be destroyed overnight.
Oh, so trick-or-treating is basically blackmail, just like it is today.
You are correct. Blackmail it is.
All right, so obviously nowadays the costumes are the biggest thing. I mean, like I talked about, my kids and I were out. We actually ended up going to 4 different stores because we couldn't find the perfect costume. So, have costumes changed over the years? Do we have some different kind of costume than they used to do, let's say 100 years ago?
You know, costumes of yesteryear have a lot to do with masks, which has played a big role in Halloween, even back to the days where we would dance around the fire and ward off bad spirits. There was a lot of masks involved. So I am going to be showing you a few examples up on the screen to kind of give you a little taste of costumes that were made from the 1860s and on to about 1920. This first one depicts a man with an oversized face mask. Obviously, it's a little on the creepy side. This is dated 1900, and I trust that you will appreciate these photos. The second one, as you can see, there's a hair wig with a face mask and a couple of dolls. This one is dated from 1890. And this one is a classic. This is in 1875. This one is called Haunted Air. And I'm not sure exactly what haunted air means, but as you can see, they're big into covering their face. I have no idea what this is, so if any of you want to comment as to what this costume could possibly be, I would love to hear it. The next one, there's several groupings where people got together and took a group photo. This is one of the rare moments that you would see groupings of family, of children, of adults in celebration together as something other than a formal photo. And as you can see, very heavily relied upon masks. A lot of times they would use paper products or cloth products with holes in them. It was just very simple. And this one is dated from 1895. I want to show you another one quickly. This is actually dated from 1900, and it depicts two men on horseback. They have two skeleton faces, and they've done a really good job putting together a skeleton bodysuit. So I would give this 5 stars. And I just wanted to share one more with you. And this one is my particular favorite. This was done in a studio, as you can tell by the way that it's inset. This one is done in the early 1900s, and it depicts two sisters. They're both fairies, and they're wearing, once again, face masks with crowns and little wands at the bottom, which I thought was important to include because it diverges from what we have seen mostly, uh, which has been more of the macabre.
Yeah, I definitely can see that. You know, we always picture old Halloween. I always picture, you know, the black hoods, the big you know, almost the plague mask style level of mask. So it's definitely interesting to see some of what people used to wear. So, Brooke, do you have any special plans for Halloween coming up, and other than your amazing party that you already went to?
Yes, I'm going to another get together with a longtime friend, and I'm going to come up with a different costume. And it's just a fun time where you can be someone else or something else. And I think that that's really important. It's one night, and it's just a way to celebrate that side of ourselves where we can be something else for an hour. So I am going to be getting together with some friends, and we are going to paint the town.
Sounds like a lot of fun. I know my kids are planning on going to quite a few trunk or treats this year, and you know, probably putting themselves in a sugar coma. Knowing them, I mean, they can do that by themselves without even going to trick or treats. But you know, they got to get all that candy. So of course, you know, all those you guys watching our podcast here today or listening to us, let us know your plans. We want to know if there's any interesting stuff that you guys do as a family for Halloween. I know my family used to, we would, instead of trick or treating, my mom would buy us a bag of candy each the day after Halloween when it was 50% off. And that was our Halloween tradition. We'd go trick or treating, and then the next day we'd all get a giant bag of candy to guarantee what we had. So definitely we want to see some of those. If you have pictures, definitely put them up. I'll probably prod Brooke here into putting her picture up of her new costume. And when my kids get into their costumes, we'll put some pictures of them up. You won't catch me in a costume. I haven't worn one since I was 18, so it's not happening.
I will try to get Daniel in a costume. So if we get a few likes out of this, maybe I can get him in a costume.
We'll see. We'll see. So, of course, you know, thank you guys so much for joining us here today and listening to this interesting story of Halloween and where it came from and how we've gotten where we're at. Like I mentioned earlier, please do think about giving to us here at the museum. We don't want to sit here and beg for money, obviously, but with the new system we put up, we really would love for you guys to try it out, interact with it, or even become members of the museum. Like I said, we would love to have you guys be members, receive the newsletter that Brooke and I are working on, and we work hard to make some great articles for that. So we'd love to see you guys be able to enjoy that. And of course, the museum's open. Definitely come down and see us. We love to give you guys the story of St. Joe, talk about all the fun and sometimes creepy stories that come out of this building here of people in the past. And definitely do join us here again next week. I think next week we're going to be doing a reading from another one of the Halloween classics. So we'll see. Brooke is convinced she's going to get me a costume, like she said. Tune in next week and see if that happens. You know, if we get plenty of likes, I may have to do it. But knowing her, she'll get me in the costume no matter what. So, Brooke, do you have anything else to add today?
Thank you so much for listening to our podcast today. And please do post some pictures below. We would love to see what you're getting dressed up as. What are your traditions? What do you do every year? Thank you for listening.
Again, thanks so much for joining us, and you guys have a great weekend. Bye.